So today in Ride Review, I'm going to be reviewing the other, and in my opinion the best, new coaster for 2018, and that is Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. This opened back in May of this year, and is a mack rides multi-launch coaster, and it features 2 inversions, although I'll probably get shouted at if I say 2, so it's got 1 inversion. And yeah, if you haven't seen my Wicker Man reviews, you can go check that out in the top right now. I think that's the video that I've plugged the most ever since it came out, like seriously. So, you enter under a nice pagoda style entrance. Like Wicker Man, you enter under a nice entrance. Of course, it's not heavily themed like that is, but that wasn't expected from them. It's instead got a very nice style, which I really like. It's more of a modernistic style of like a Japanese kind of modern style with all the blossom tree stuff and all this glossy tiles and stuff, and I really like it. After entering the entrance, you go down into the queue line, and it's a very short queue line, but what compensates for it is the operations, but I'll get to that in just a minute. So you walk down, it swerves just underneath one of the turnaround sections towards the end of the ride. You go down right next to the first launch, which again is a great interaction. After that, it's just a straight section into the station, and here's what I mean about operations. You go into the station, they are getting trains out constantly. You would literally, if the queue was full back to the entrance, you'd be in the station in about 10 minutes. It's really insane. It's probably, well, it has to be the best operations in the UK by far. Anyway, onto the ride itself. So you start with a slow roll out of the station, a nice sound effect, which you can, it's quite quiet, but you can still hear it, and then the launch. Usually people say, oh, the launch is so slow, they should have made it faster, but I disagree with that. I think it's the perfect speed. Obviously it could have been slightly faster, but I will say it's slow in the morning, well, not slow, but the whole ride itself is a lot slower in the morning or earlier on in the day than it is at night time, because towards the night, towards the dark, it's insane. So yeah, so you go up into this first top hat after doing that gradual launch. Of course, it's not the fastest launch on the ride, the second launch is. You go up into the top hat, which is a nice part. Obviously you get some airtime if you're at the back, which is really great. Under the big one, down into the incline loop. Now I expected this to feel more steep when you go round it, but that's not a problem. It just wasn't as good as I expected it to be, but still, it's an alright part of the ride. If I say anything about like parts of the ride being bad, they're not. It's just I preferred other parts over it. So then you go into a few bank turns and you drop down underneath Big Dipper and Steeplechase and do a few S-bend curves. I like this part. If you don't know, I have been on Cheetah Hunt, and that has a Rhino Rally section where it constantly banks left, right, and it goes into the third launch. I love that bit, and it's probably my favourite part of Cheetah Hunt. This part is one of my favourite parts of Icon as well. I really like it. It only does it twice, I think, but it's still a great part of the ride. It interacts, again, really well with Big Dipper and Steeplechase, going right back underneath it when it's finished that section. And then, yeah, up, round, and into the first inversion, or the only inversion. That is the Heartline roll. People call it a 0G roll. I don't get how or why. I prefer to just call it a barrel roll or a Heartline roll, because that's what I believe it is anyway. And you go into that. That is one of my favourite parts of the ride, and from here I'd say this towards the end of the Immelman is my favourite bit. Now, you go round that Heartline roll in a really good speed, and you get a lot of hang time from that. Obviously you've just got a lap bar on, which is really good. And then yeah, that is definitely one of my favourite parts of the ride by far. You then go down underneath the top hat and down into a little airtime hill dip down into the second launch. This airtime hill bit, really surprising. I thought I was just going to go down. You just went down and nothing really happened from there. You get a decent bit of airtime, especially when the mist is on. You can't see a thing when you're going down into there, as you can't when you're going up into the top hat. The mist makes it a lot better in my opinion, especially on front row, and I'll talk more about that later. Anyway, down into the second launch and into the Junior Immelman, and that is your tallest part of the ride, and obviously the fastest part of the ride too. It's a really good Immelman. You actually get airtime off the top, which is really good, especially on the back row, as always. But yeah, you'd be hearing me saying, oh, especially on back row, airtime, airtime, airtime on the back row. But there's a difference, and I'll tell you that later, as I said before. You then go down a few more bank turns, an airtime hill, a down really, well, not really intense, but an intense turn section down, then over, back round where you interact a bit with the queue line. Then you go into one of my least favourite parts of the ride, the outer banked airtime hill. Be aware, I've never experienced this. I've never been on an RMC, I've never been on anything with one of these, or any of them with like a massive one of these. And this was, well, it wasn't massive, but you know what I mean. And it was like my first kind of one. I wouldn't say I hated it, but I wouldn't say I loved it either. As time went on and I rode it more times, I began to like it more. But other than that, it was an alright element. I'm not going to judge it right now because I may feel different about it next year or something, so you never know. Then a few more bank turns and into the brakes. That is your ride. Now, of course, you're going through this ride with a lap bar, which is the best part. The lap bar, if it was over the shoulder restraints, which I know it probably wouldn't have been, but if it was, that probably would have knocked it down quite a few places. But because it's got lap bars, it allows you to get really good hang time and really good air time as well. Yeah, so what did I think of the overall ride? Well, I thought it's a really good ride. The station, everything's really well done, although it does look a bit like a shoebox, but they've done quite well to protect that and actually make it so it doesn't look like one. The style's really nice around the ride. It's not heavy theming, but no one was expecting that. And then the ride itself is insane. It's actually in my top 3, which is really weird because obviously my top 3 goes Red Force at number 1, Shambhala at number 2, and 3, Icon. Now, let me just tell you this. Icon in the dark is a completely different story to the daytime. It's so much faster than it is early in the day, and I absolutely love it in the dark. But yeah, overall, if you're looking for an intense coaster, I don't recommend this. It's not intense, but it's just smooth. One factor, yes, it's very smooth, and I love that factor about it. It feels like a B&M. My favourite row on the coaster, fun fact, is the front row. Everyone's like, well, not everyone obviously, but most people say the back row on coasters is the best because you get the most speed. In my opinion, the front on Icon is the best, and it just is. You get the really good views off the top of the top hat. It's still forceful at the front, but it's obviously not too forceful because, as I said earlier, it's not the most intense ride ever. But obviously Icon is my favourite at the park, and it probably, well, it is my favourite coaster in the UK, I'll say that now. And that is it. If you'd like to leave your opinion on Icon in the comments, then please do so. I'm happy to read your reviews and stuff of it, and if you haven't yet checked it out, then I definitely recommend you go to Blackpool and experience it for yourself. It is a really good ride, and I'm so glad we have something like this in the UK. 2018 has been a big year, and especially for Blackpool and Alton Towers. Thorpe Park, not so much. But thank you for watching this video, and just before I go, I'd like to say that I'm actually going to be making a video all about Icon, and it's actually a different kind of video that I've actually never done on the channel before, so I can't wait for you guys to see that. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe if you'd like to. We're almost at 1,000. We're about 60 subscribers away, which is, as I always say, it's pretty insane. But yeah, thank you for that, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.